Time to bring in the man, Jeff Saturday from ESPN and, of course, Colts legend, our center here on the morning after. So, Jeff, it's a Victory Monday in Indy today.
Yeah, baby. Got to love those.
Jeff, yesterday we saw kind of, honestly, a rare occurrence in Indianapolis. It was the defense, doing the major heavy lifting. Were you surprised by that effort considering what Washington did on the ground in week one in their convincing win over Arizona?
Yeah, I really was. In all honesty, I mean, when you're going in and you're evaluating the game, you felt like that was going to be a pro for the Redskins, and you're thinking for the Colts, hey, they're going to have to figure out different ways. But the Colts did a fantastic job. Leonard, at the linebacker position, did a fantastic job getting home, making plays. He was all over the field. But just in totality, I mean, holding the team down, single digits, what they did, they showed up ready to play and had a fantastic game plan, just executed. I mean, I think that's what, week in and week out, that's what Frank's going to build on is, hey, through execution, look what's happening, and you're growing each and every week. And what yesterday looked like, they got to be really excited to go home and get back to that victory.
Jeff, you mentioned Leonard, just a flat-out stud yesterday. 18 tackles, 15 solos. Have you seen a performance out of a Colts linebacker like that? I mean, it seems like he was just moving at a different speed than everybody else on the field yesterday.
No, it was an incredible effort. I mean, and to your point, you don't see him very often. I mean, when guys – when you turn the tape on and that's really who you see just repeatedly, that's not normal for the NFL. I mean, you're seeing a guy, you get up in that 10 range. It's a really good day. 12, a great day, and he's flying around, and a ton of those are like solo style tackles. I mean, he's getting home and making those plays. So I was impressed. I mean, and again, this goes back to preparation scheme. Obviously, when you say a kid is playing at a different speed, there's a reason. That means he's diagnosing and then he's executing. But even if you get him there, he's got to make the play, and he did that yesterday. Heck of a game for the entire defense, but for he especially.
Yeah, Jeff Saturday joining us here in the morning after, and to Leonard, 15 solo tackles. How much can a guy who's playing at that level inspire and lift the entire defense around him, Jeff? What's the kind of residual effect on the rest of the team?
Well, I mean, I think you go throughout history of defenses when you get a guy who plays at that level consistently. I mean, you talk about the Luke Kuechly's in the league, and all of a sudden you see everybody around them begin to play. Their line plays better. Their other linebackers play better. But I'll equate it to even a guy who's around now in the Cowboys who's been injured a ton, but Sean Lee. And you look at the productivity of the Cowboys defense when he's in and when he's out. And I love when you get down into statistics and you really see, hey, when a guy's on the field, what does it look like versus when he's not on the field. And when you're an impact player and you begin to watch how your defense carries when you're on, and I know this is early. I mean, I'm not trying to jump into that boat yet. It's very early. But I'm just saying when a guy can make that type of impact consistently, now all the guys around him know, hey, if the play is there, he's going to make it. I can't let my guy down. When it's my play, I got to make it the same way.
Jeff, flipping over to the offensive side of the ball, no Anthony Costanzo for a second straight week, and that's kind of shuffled some things at both tackle spots. But yet, the pass protection has been pretty solid, and the offense in general has really found a rhythm. How much do you credit Frank Reich for his play calling, knowing that steady left tackle isn't there, and so you have to be a little bit more creative and getting that ball out a little bit quicker?
No, and listen, I think from an offensive perspective, that's what you should expect with the Colts. I mean, I think Frank understands, even when Costanzo comes back, that rhythm is really what you're looking for from an offensive perspective and that offensive style that he wants to bring to. And I will tell you, probably the most impressive thing to me was, they go through, they start out, we're up, we're kind of moving. Then we kind of go through a lull, and it looks kind of ugly, and things aren't kind of really hitting on all cylinders. But then you come back and kind of recapture that momentum. That shows growth from an offense, right? When all of a sudden, hey, we're not finding our way, defense has got a little bit of momentum against us. I think that was good. And I tell you, where you go back to Frank's calls and offensive coordinator calls and all that, the touchdown up the middle, kind of little wham play I mean, you're going to run it up the middle, but it was a cool design. I mean, when I'm watching the game, I'm watching the war room with a bunch of guys down at ESPN, and we got a bunch of TVs going, and all of a sudden I look at this little design, and it's a pull, trap, little wham type deal, and it's right up the gut, finishes it in the end zone. A really cool design. Now, can you make a living on that? That's going to be tough, but it was a perfect call and a perfect time, again, to grab some more momentum. So I love the balance of all of it yesterday, and I really love that even when you struggle, you come out of the struggle and can finish strong in the fourth quarter when it really matters. Because, listen, we all know these aren't going to be blowouts in the NFL. They're going to be tight games. You're going to have to find ways to win. That's what I appreciated most about yesterday.
Where are we at now? 1-1, the two games that you've seen. I know they're playing the world champs this coming weekend, but Jeff, as you evaluate the totality of this team now, how much better did they get from week to week, and how much can they sustain? How much is real?
Well, I mean, I've said this before. I think when you're looking at this team, there's a lot of places they're going to have to grow. What I liked is in both phases yesterday, you saw growth and you understood. Like I said, when they went through the lull offensively, when you have to rely on your defense, all of those things, that's going to lead to growth for a football team. As far as sustainability, you look at the Texans, they're struggling right now. And I always go back to your division because that's really what matters for playoff-wise. Jacksonville looked really good yesterday. I thought Tennessee just looked okay. I mean, that game as a whole wasn't really impressive, in my opinion. Now, they've got some injuries in Tennessee as well. I think Houston's O-line is struggling. So in the division, maybe you could make a little hay. I mean, I understand where Jacksonville is, and they're trying to separate themselves. But from the Colts' perspective, they got to be really happy from the growth from week 1 to week 2, and that's what Frank's going to be in there. And now you get a shot to show the world stage when you play Philly, who's coming off a big upset, losing to Tampa Bay. Hey, how are we going to perform when we're going against the world champ? So I think everything's lining up, man. It's slow and steady. I think Wentz will be back, so you'll see from a defensive perspective what does that look like. I'm excited, though, man. I'm excited about just the vibe for the Colts in general. I'm excited about the direction they're headed.
And, Jeff, the rest of the AFC South, look, the Colts made some strides. Jacksonville was terrific against New England, but, man, that Texans and Titans game, that was kind of tough to watch.
Yeah, that wasn't the prettiest game. That was one of the ones I had to for NFL primetime that I had to kind of hone in on, and it wasn't pretty. I mean, it was one of those slugfest type games. I thought Houston's offensive line, really 2 weeks in a row, they have not looked good. Deshaun Watson, he's coming off that injury. It's been tough for him to find a rhythm. And then you flip it over on Tennessee's side. I mean, I think those guys, they've got some injuries up in the offensive line. Both their tackles didn't play. And so they just found ways to make play with Mariota out as well and Gabbard in there. So they found a way. But I think this thing is in a place where, in the AFC South, Jacksonville is really kind of exerting their will. They felt like they were the best team in the AFC Championship last year against the Patriots and ended up losing a lead. This time they held on, man. And listen, they were impressive. As you look at the way they played, they were very impressive. They never took their foot off the gas. So I think the AFC South as a whole, when you see the Colts with Andrew Luck and getting healthy, that might be a team that can kind of slide in there in that back position.
Jeff, where are you at with Jacksonville? I mean, do you consider them a legit favorite in the AFC?
I do. I consider them. You see them as the AFC South. They were in the championship game last year, and everybody, they had a chance. They had a lead. They couldn't hold the lead. What did that all look like? Well, yesterday they kind of grew from last year, and I hate to say revenge games, all that kind of nonsense, because really it's a completely different team. But from a coordinator perspective and Hackett and what he did, they never took it off. I mean, after two turnovers, that Fowler ends up making a strip sack of Brady, but when they come back and they don't start running, it doesn't become the Yeldon show because Fournette's out. They continue to throw it with Bortles, and I think to me that was impressive because now you're putting in your quarterback's hands. He threw it 45 times. He made big plays, but even in those, he threw some swing routes. He extended plays with his legs. But they didn't hold off. They just kept going, and I think that was the part that I saw. That's the growth that Jacksonville wanted to show from last year to this year, and that's really what they want to show. But so I do consider them an AFC favorite. I don't count the Patriots out. I'm not trying to jump off of that bandwagon that early. I mean, that's a very good football team as well. But Jacksonville is going to be in the mix for sure.
Jeff Saturday joining us here. It's Saturday morning, or Saturday on Monday morning, I should say, here on the morning after on FM 107.5 and 1070 The Fan. Look, I saw Patrick Mahomes play against the Broncos last year. He looked really impressive, and we all thought, okay, that's great. He played one great game. It was on the road against a divisional team, whatever. Then he did what he did last week with 4 touchdowns, and then 6 touchdowns yesterday. And I'm watching him, and Jeff, he moves, he looks, he feels like a guy who's been in the league 5 or 7 years. What do you've played with some of the greatest players ever, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. What are you seeing when you watch that young man play right now in Kansas City?
No, that's a great point. I just broke down a tape on SportsCenter a little bit ago, and between he and Travis Kelce yesterday, and he really did look like a multi-year vet. I mean, he's reading the safeties off with his eyes. He saw on one play it's Tampa 2, and he allows a bend route kind of in the middle up the seam to get behind the Mike who's trying to chase and throws a dart. Then he uses his eyes to manipulate and get Kelce open on the other side. But he sees the game extremely well. And give a ton of credit to Andy Reid. I mean, this guy, last week I felt like it was more gimmicky, right? I mean, he had 2 touchdown passes, but they were basic handoffs, in front of him. They had man coverage down in the red zone, and so he kind of just pitched it to him. This week, he really carried it. I mean, even as he rolled out one of his touchdowns, he was rolling out, he could have run it in. He kept his eyes downfield and throws a laser to the backside of the end zone, kind of across his body. And so as you're talking about a guy in his development and growth, you can tell Andy Reid is not treating him like a rookie, which is basically what I consider him, right? We just said he played 1 game basically last year, but he's not considering him that way. I mean, the maturation process for him has come quickly, and with Andy Reid's play calling, it will allow that. I would say the other part is Pittsburgh makes this push yesterday, and Mahomes had no back down. I mean, man, that's impressive. There was no shrinking. There wasn't any back down from him. This guy stood up, man, and kept making those plays and kept his offense in it. That was an impressive day. He's had 2 really incredible weeks.
Jeff, if you were in that Buffalo locker room yesterday and playing for the Bills, your thoughts on what Vontae Davis did at halftime?
That's brutal, man. I mean, I get, I read his statement afterwards about his body, and I completely understand that. But midway through a game, you're putting the onus on somebody else's body as well, right? I mean, when you're in there and you decide it's not for you without injury, someone else has to go in and fill that. And so, in my opinion, just not the time to do it, right? If he decided that was going to happen after the game, I understand it, or before the game. But kind of once you're in, I'm in for this one. Let's all kind of hold this together. And it's not just one guy. It's a waterfall effect, right, or a domino effect. Once you have it, it affects everybody. And then another corner's got to step up, or another safety's got to play out of position. Going to have to grab special teams reps as well. So you really put the onus on a bunch of other people. And so, I hate that he didn't feel like his body is where it was. I just would have liked to see him finish that game out and then make that announcement, as opposed to walking off at halftime and kind of leaving his guys high and dry.
Yeah. Hey, last thing, let's look ahead. Frank Reich against his old team, where he was the offensive coordinator. They won a Super Bowl within the last year, the Philadelphia Eagles. What do the Colts need to do to be competitive and maybe even steal a road game? Let's be optimistic. What's the blueprint for stealing one in Philly?
Well, I think Wentz is going to be back, and so as you're looking at, there's going to be excitement for him. He's going to be all fired up, and the crowd is going to be into it. So you got to take them out early, right? So if you can come up with something big early in the game, maybe not a gimmick play, but a nice play action deep down the field to kind of take them out and jump on them early, that always helps when you can take them out. And then I'll tell you, take the air out of the game, right? I mean, be effective in your run game. You saw Frank use, like I said earlier, that wham-type play and some different variations of the run game to extend some drives and just chew up some clock so that you frustrate the other offense. When a guy can't get a rhythm and he's been out for this long, he wants to stay kind of in that groove. And Frank understands that and what it is. And let me tell you, man, Frank's he wants this one. He's going to play it down. Everybody's going to play it down because that's what we all do. That's what we've been told our whole career. Act like it's no big deal. It's just another game. It's not just another game. When you're going against guys and you get the familiarity that you do, you want to go out there and show well. And so I think those are the things you do. And if our defense can play even close to what they did, last week against Washington, that's what's really going to matter, right? Is if you can hold those guys down, again, begin to frustrate that offense, all of a sudden guys begin to press and you begin to take advantage when teams try to press. So I'm excited about it, though. I'm excited to see Wentz back. I'm excited to see the Colts against that and Frank against his old team. Really looking forward to it.
Jeff, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you next Monday after another Colts game, maybe even a victory against Philly. Who knows? We'll talk to you soon.
Heck yeah, man. Looking forward to it. Y'all be good.